meeting of CCWD. Would you all please rise and join me in the pledge? This way. I'm gonna offer question reflection. You'll have to get on your chair. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Had to work on the polish. Rebecca, would you please call the roll?
Director Underhill.
Here.
Director Ratterman.
Here.
Director Davidson.
Here.
Director Cicada. Here. President Thomas.
I am here. Okay, moving on to public comment. This time, members of the public may address the board on any non-agendized item. The public is encouraged to work through staff to place items on the agenda for board consideration, and no action can be taken on matters not on the agenda. Comments are limited to 3 minutes per person. Do we have any public comment today, here or online? Nope. Seeing none? Okay. Moving on to our consent agenda, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 items. Move for acceptance.
I wanted to pull 3C just for a statement.
Move for acceptance 3A, 3B, 3D, 3E, 3F, and 3G. Second. Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve all but 3C. Full board.
Director Underhill.
Yes.
Director Ratterman.
Yes.
Director Davidson.
Yes.
Director Cicada.
Yes.
President Thomas.
Yes. And Director Underhill, what is your question about 3C?
Yeah, my comment about 3C. What I normally do is go to the claim summary and I will call and ask about certain transactions, and Damon has just been right on about having the answers immediately. So that I think that worked for me rather than bring it to the meeting, and I'm satisfied. And it's really, I think there's been a lot of work on the claim summary as far as tightening up the bills that you're paying. And I think that's, that's a way we need to do our business. So, and I appreciate that, because Pat, that's yours, right? The claim summary, the bills.
Well, it's everybody.
Oh, well.
It's every department.
Okay.
Every district.
Forget it.
Not me. Yeah. But Pat, this is on the positive side, so yes, take credit.
Yep. Everybody's doing a great job on, not submitting superfluous, wording and what have you. Everything's pretty concise, and I appreciate that.
I really appreciate your comments on that. And since we pulled it, I'll just briefly, because Director Cicada and I also talked about that. President Thomas had asked for some more detail about CIP expenditures. So now we have that table at the front there. So we really are trying to be responsive to the requests from directors to make it as transparent as possible and make sure all the information is there and easy to find, and always, trying to reduce or control costs wherever we can.
Because what directors do is usually look at the amount and sometimes it,
Well, yeah, and that's what the claim summary is for. Every little transaction is in there, and I appreciate that. If you have questions, please feel free, as you do already. All of you, feel free to give me a call and ask those questions. Yeah, preferably in advance, so we have time to make sure we give you a full response. But happy to address those questions on the claim summary.
Okay, so my comment, I was going to say the same thing. This, the CIP here was a great addition. The way it was added, and Michael did explain quite a few things to me. The only comment as far as reaching out to staff and getting the questions answered, I think that's great, and that's what you should do. And that's what I've done. However, there's certain things that I would say, maybe that should be mentioned at some point. So for instance, Michael and I talked, so now we're going to talk about in the finance. Just because I think if I'm asking the question, perhaps maybe a customer might be. So on those certain ones, we're going to bring it to the finance, so.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And I've made a public comment about this before in response to the way it was brought to staff, but before, and my only intention was not to avoid bringing it up, but it
Mhm.
was just to send an email to anyone in the staff, or just send it to Mike and let him distribute it, that this is the page, this is the item that I'm gonna ask a question about tomorrow, just that no one is surprised. And I
Yeah.
think that is the right way to do it. And thank you, Bertha, for your comments on that subject
Yeah.
as well.
That's
Okay,
it.
before we get a vote or a motion on this, I'd like to ask about the ADP expenditure for that seemingly for a month, the 3,749.
What page?
That's on page 1 of 11. That's 2/3 of the way down, payroll processing, ADP. Didn't we have a big train wreck here?
We did, and we are still working with them on making sure we're not paying for the train wreck. But that's an accurate description of what happened.
Okay,
I think Stacy would agree. I think she's online today.
but did I also hear during that time that there ultimately will be a way that we can get our payroll done through the Tyler?
That's
connection?
happening through the finance module implementation. That'll be kind of on the tail end of the finance module implementation, but that work is well underway right now.
Okay,
And one other comment that I mentioned to Michael that we kind of liked. I don't know if any of you have looked at the draft budget yet, so we just got it yesterday. Anyhow, on the draft budget, all along out here, like on legal papers, you have a number of what that line is on. And
Mhm.
so if we did that on this check register, you could say, oh, go to 101 or something.
line 101.
Yeah.
Okay, All
Director
right.
Cicada,
Yes.
we can do that.
Oh, you're so awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, we'll talk about the budget tomorrow.
Okay, are there any other questions on this 3C?
Yeah, no, but just thank you to Jeff and admin services and Pat for the improvements on the claim summary. Good. I appreciate that.
So it was Pat all along.
Yeah, see,
The descriptions, I think the descriptions are great improvement too, by the way.
Why are we paying so much for dam tests and stuff?
Hey, watch the language.
All them does. Which,
He's not serious.
no,
He's not serious. Sit down.
Those dam charges, they're getting
Yeah.
to me. Okay, without, or unless there are other comments on this,
Any public?
move to.
I asked for that.
Oh,
Public
excuse me.
comments on this?
Oh, okay.
Mike Castro Valley Springs. Starting on page 2, there's a bunch of 175 charges for generator air pollution control. Just, I'm curious, what is that?
Safety.
that falls under the category of dam charges.
Yeah, that's Calaveras County Fair.
Is that a quarterly, a yearly,
That's a yearly.
semi-annual?
Yearly, it's-
Okay. And the other kind of strange one was health insurance, CalPERS, 174,400. Is that the monthly amount for insurance for the employees? Okay, all right. Like I said, just caught my eye. Thank you.
Jeff, just to
Catches my eye
clarify,
every month.
that's monthly?
It is monthly.
Yes, it is monthly.
Yeah.
Okay,
You know, it shows in the claim summary that it's from 1/1, January 1st till, looks like it's a quarterly bill, March 31st. It's showing right on this summary that it's a 3-month charge, third quarter, 2024, 28,000.
It's not monthly.
Well,
I don't know.
there's health insurance,
I don't know
Calaveras
the-
health insurance, 424 employees. That's 1 month, 174.
Oh,
I think,
which one were you asking? I'm sorry.
yeah, on page 4, yeah. I think
Okay.
the one you're talking about, maybe that's post-employment benefit. The retiree,
No,
portion maybe?
it's workers' comp for, which doesn't have anything to do with past employees. It's,
Or
current
health
employees.
insurance. No, he's asking about health insurance.
Yeah.
not
Yeah,
workers'
I'm
comp.
sorry.
Okay. If there are no further questions or discussion, Bertha, you want to?
Yeah, I move that we
Second,
Okay,
approve 3C.
all right, moved and seconded on 3C, please poll the board.
Director Underhill?
Yes.
Director Ratterman?
yes.
Director Davidson?
Yes.
Director Cicada?
Yes.
President Thomas?
Yes. All right, now, it looks like to me that we have to suspend this Board of Directors meeting at this point and convene the Public Finance Authority. So I just did that. So all you public finance authoritarians,
Speak up for roll call.
yeah, we have a roll call required for this too.
This way, Director Cicada?
Here.
Director Davidson?
Chair.
Director Ratterman?
Here,
Director Underhill?
Yeah.
President Thomas?
I'm here. So who's going to take the lead on this? That's normal stuff, but there's,
No changes.
all right, well, I guess I can summarize by saying that it appears to me that there's been no changes on this since 2017. No changes are required. So any comments on this? Public or board?
So
Okay.
you need a motion for acceptance.
I do.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, it's moved and seconded that we just go forward with the reauthorization of this,
Conflict of interest.
pardon me,
Conflict of interest.
the conflict of interest code.
Yep.
Okay. Pull the word?
You want a public comment? No public comment?
I don't think so. Public comment on this? All right,
Director Cicada?
Yes.
Director Davidson?
Yes.
Director Ratterman?
yes.
Director Underhill?
Yes.
President Thomas?
yes. All right, this meeting of the Public Financing Authority is adjourned. And we'll reconvene the regular board meeting, going on to item 6, new business. We have the famous Kelly Gerkensmeyer with his hydrological
Did you
report.
say famous?
Famous.
Or infamous.
Oh,
What's-
I think he meant infamous.
I have some, I have comments about his spreading fame, so go ahead.
Good afternoon.
Hello.
I have a little brief presentation for you. I have to say this winter was probably one of the more average winters and maybe normal that I can ever remember. If there's such a thing as a normal winter anymore, this one might have been it. So really, I'm just here to actually just confirm that the official, unofficial end of winter is here. It was on May 4th and 5th that it finally snowed on the dogwoods. And that concludes my report. No.
I like
No.
the word, you said brief, thank you.
Yeah, it's brief, but really it did. It snowed pretty good on
Yeah,
that
it did.
weekend actually. And what I found interesting was the UC Berkeley Central Sierra Snow Lab on May 5th. Actually, it was the snowiest day of the season with 26.4 inches at that site,
Wow.
which so on May 5th, that's kind of remarkable. I think the second snowiest day was March 3rd. But yeah, that station's up kind of by Truckee, and they recorded the snowiest day on May 5th for this year. Right now, we're about 67% of the way through the 2024 water year. Statewide precipitation so far, as you can see down that blue line, is pretty much average since 1972, and we're just below average for 2024. And then nothing too crazy with swings and nothing too dry, which is nice. For our region, which is the San Joaquin Station 5 region, which is basically Calaveras, Big Trees, Hetch Hetchy, Yosemite, North Fork, and Huntington Beach. Huntington Lake. We're at 32.7 inches. And that's at about 86% of normal for the seasonal average to date. Getting a little closer to home in the Calaveras watershed, we're sitting at 99%. The upper McCallum watershed, we're at 91%. And the Stanislaus as well is at about 91% of average so far. Huge swing in snowpack from last year at this time. So the 2023 date was May 22nd. That 2024 date was actually yesterday. So I'm kind of bummed, you know, I want it to be exactly on May 22nd, but I did mess up on that. And actually I started messing with this presentation last week. So I put in those numbers and it was a huge difference just from, I think, the 18th when I started putting this together. So it's melting pretty quick, but you know, last year, as we all know, the snow was just, it was historic. I believe last year, 2023 was the 8th wettest year in 50 years. California reservoirs all pretty much topped off. I found it, you know, fascinating. We have 154 reservoirs statewide. Right now, we're sitting at 38.1 million acre feet in capacity, which brings us statewide to 118% of average and 86% capacity for all reservoirs statewide.
Look at old New Maloney's.
Yeah. Maloney's looks beautiful right now.
Yeah,
It
it
looks
does.
absolutely amazing. Here's a little snapshot of some of our local reservoirs. Looks like I could have made that lower graph a little brighter, but again, everything is just nice and full. Union and Utica always shows that it's, you know, 105% when it's full. So I don't know if that's just, you know, spilling really good or the gauge is a little bit off.
Overachievers.
What's that?
Overachievers.
Yeah,
Right.
but we're looking really good here in the high country as well. And it's looking like Spicer is at a 25% chance of filling. I highly doubt it's going to spill. We'll see, but we're at about 25% chance of it filling completely. I mean, right now it's 88% full. So hopefully that road opens pretty soon and we can all get up there. I'm looking forward to that. Here's a snapshot of Spicer.
Hey, are they still snowmobiling on that road at this time of year? Or is that a-
Kind of.
Oh.
You know, I went up there the other day and there is quite a bit of asphalt showing. So there's just gonna be patches. So I think on a snowmobile, it might be tough. A couple of years ago, I went out there at this time of year and it was a pain. I tried to ski out there and I spent more time taking my gear off and putting it back on because there was large stretches of blacktop. So right now it's kind of that pain.
That's not good on equipment.
No, it was a lot more difficult than I had anticipated. Many blisters. So this is a snapshot of Spicer right now. I only highlighted the last 2 years, pink being last year, the red being this year, and I grayed out all the other ones, but real similar. I mean, we didn't drop quite as much as last year. Last year was interesting. If you look on the graph, last year Spicer was the lowest and fullest it had been in 10 years in the same season. This year it's trending pretty good. Hogan too, we're right in line, except for as you see at the beginning of last year's water year, a huge difference. So the pink was last year, the red is this year. So starting off the water year last year, Hogan was extremely low. So we started off at a good spot this year. A report was just released last week from the California Department of Water Resources. It was just released in May. And there were some interesting findings that 4.1 million acre feet of managed recharge and 8.7 million acre feet increase in storage during this water year, or actually, excuse me, during last year's water year. And that was the first increase in groundwater that we've seen since 2019. As you can see in the map, the dark purple is where the majority of that happened, and the majority of it was down south. But still, I think that's a good sign, and I can provide a link to that report. It's a lengthy report, but I found it quite fascinating. You know, last year there was a lot more emphasis on getting some of that flood water and, you know, making it easier to do some of these projects to get that water in the ground. So they're between the historic winter and I think some of those projects, they were able to succeed and get some water in the ground.
How are they measuring that? I mean, are they measuring elevation or are they just making calculations?
Well, I don't know if they're doing elevation. I mean, I'm sure every well site has their own way of measuring, the water level. And each basin is in charge of reporting that. So these are for each basin. And as you can see, the majority of it was down south. We didn't have as much up here in our region.
So the collection of all of the monitoring wells that for each basin that ramped up, and we've been doing monitoring wells for decades now, but it increased after Sigma and that they aggregate that data now.
That's good news.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I believe we're right about the 10-year anniversary for when Sigma was implemented. I think that we're,
2013, yeah.
yeah, so right around, yeah, so last year we're about that 10 years. And then a quick snapshot of where we're at in the drought. I mean, last year, there was only little pockets down south of extremely dry. But right now, the shot on the right is currently, well, as of the 14th, they'll release the newer map tomorrow, but I'm sure it's going to be very similar. But as you can see, virtually all the West Coast is looking pretty good with, I think, that very, very low part of California. There's a little bit of yellow that goes in there for the extremely dry, but virtually zero drought conditions whatsoever in all of California. And like I said, that was going to be brief, and so it was brief. Can't help throwing in a nice picture of McCabe every chance I get, but it did spill a little bit this season. This footage is from last season, but we did get confirmation yesterday that there has been a few times throughout about 2 weeks ago when it did spill. We were out there yesterday and it was not spilling, but the Beaver Creek diversion was flowing about that much yesterday as well.
I should probably know this, but we did have a committee looking at groundwater between us and San Joaquin. What happened to that?
Yeah, that work is still underway. We'll probably bring a report out to the board before too long.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So it's still active. Do we have any, who's representing us?
Well, we are no longer we don't have an
Remember,
appointee on the
yeah.
groundwater authority anymore. It used to be President Thomas. It's currently Supervisor Tofinelli. And we're the alternate for that. But we're still working with Calaveras County and Stanislaus County on the GSA.
Has Calaveras County gotten more engaged in it, or?
Yeah, we've had some good discussions recently, and I think hopefully some progress in the near future.
Any other questions?
Oh, thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to item 7, reports. We have report on the operations department. Damon?
Good afternoon, directors.
Hello, Mr. Whitehall.
So there continues to be just great variability in the amount of work and the types of work that our ops crews accomplish. And so this month's operations report is no different. I think there are a couple of things to highlight, though, that are, I think, more themes for this spring. And one of those is hydrant maintenance. So you'll see some images here in the slideshow about hydrant maintenance. One thing we need to highlight too is you'll see that in the capital outlay request for the budget is our fire hydrants and infrastructure materials associated with improving the overall operation of hydrants. A lot of our hydrants throughout our service areas don't have isolation valves. So in order to just conduct routine maintenance, oftentimes we have to complete a shutdown and we have to take folks out of water or reduce the capacity of the water available to them while we do O&M. So I think valve installation is going to be another thing that you guys see kind of moving forward. And that's something that's contained within that capital outlay request in the budget. So to dive right in, there's a lot of slides here, but I'll be sure if this is the right slide. Yeah, this might be a different one here. Although, I did not include operations dashboard slides in this slideshow, but you guys, I mean, rest assured that it always is there, that ops staff can always dive in and refer to the dashboard whenever we need to. It does flip flow at the beginning of every month. So, for instance, Pat, when he's working on the claim summary, he can dive into the dashboard and pull out any item that he needs in order to talk to his guys about expenditures. Because I think that's the point that Director Underhill, you were tying into kind of one of the things about the claim summary is that ops staff do really focus on expenditures and really keep a keen eye on what it is we're spending money on. That's absolutely right. Yeah.
Okay, so you pronounce it last.
Oh, yeah. No, you're all good. So we can just share in the screens together. So we're now starting in West Point, starting to get a lot of feedback from Doug and all the work that he does out in West Point. And carrying over with the theme of the month, it's service line repairs. So you guys can see that just kind of every single day, somewhere throughout our service areas, folks are out repairing service lines. Same with this as well. So you can see, kind of hard to make out, but I think Mr. Castro, you can see kind of the image under the meter box on the right up there. There's a repair clamp, and so a lot of our meter sets are one service line that feeds 2 meter boxes, and this is an example of a repair on one of those. So this is an example of a repair on a sample site. So the green box on the right is a water quality sample site. So throughout our systems, we have these sample sites located at the kind of, I would say, highlighted areas within the distribution system. And those sample locations, those sample site locations are actually determined by the state. So we submit a sampling plan to the state, and periodically that'll go through an update, say every 5 to 10 years. We add infrastructure, we add subdivision, we need to install a new sample site. The Division of Drinking Water last couple of years, move that through the capital outlay expenditures of the last few years. Site maintenance, housekeeping is always something that's always happening for our crews, but we don't necessarily highlight it as much as we possibly could. So this is the lift station in West Point. Some of you all have toured that lift station. And report, a couple of the things that I wanted to, we're back.
We're back.
Okay, great. Let's see if I can get there. So, valves, we're always working to locate and then raise valves. This is what you see in these pictures here. So this is an interesting one. So, coordination with fire departments. We have half of our crews are in ICS training today, actually incident command system training. They'll be in training tomorrow and training the next day. One of the items that's kind of a positive thing that you can see it throughout the service areas is the installation of what are called Knox boxes, which give fire departments and first responders access to district keys for facilities. And they're installed kind of inconspicuously and with pretty thick metal, pretty robust materials. So if somebody's got a grinder out there, we're more than likely going to hear about it before the deed is done. But these were installed in West Point in April. Pre-work is a continual thing that happens all the time. And you might have seen some of that in the claim summary. We have folks felling trees, and we also have CAL FIRE working to clean up sites. This is at the Middle Fork Pump Station. No month is complete without your after hours repair. So we had a 2-inch water line give up the ghost in the Jenny Lynn system, and we had a crew out there till the wee hours of the morning to restore water service there. You can see kind of in the image on the left, it's a little tough, but there's a hole right there by the pickup tube. And then the image on the right shows the newly installed 2-inch line. And then kind of, you can see a telecom flag, and in the trench also to the left, you can see what looks like electrical conduit. So our folks are always cautious when they're digging, right? I mean, there's always stuff in the ground here. This is a really an example of a really beautiful trench line. on Bartlink, a new service line replacement. You can see the boulders and the asphalt and everything on the right. That was once in the trench that lived on the line. And that continues. Hydrant maintenance, like I said, so this is kind of walking you through the disassembly and the rehabilitation of a fire hydrant. So popping that bonnet off and then working to grease the shaft, replace some of the wearable items within the hydrant, like this. So there's the shaft. You can see how rusted that is. And you can imagine working to turn all of that. So then our crews get in there and they replace that tension gasket or flange that's on the top of that nut, the operating nut, grease all of that up. There you can see a broken flange in the image on the left, the new one, and then the operating nut prior to install. And then using a specific tool to pull the shaft of the hydrant itself out, and then grease everything up, put everything back in action.
Damon,
Yeah,
how many fire hydrants do we have throughout the district that we're responsible to maintain?
it's roughly, I want to say it's, what is it? It's 4,000. So is it
Give or
that
take.
many?
Or
Is it that
plus
many?
minus.
It's about that, yeah.
4,000?
And we have one out of service in Copper currently, and we have about half a dozen out of service on Evans Pass and in Rancho currently. And so this image shows you kind of the before and the after. The hydrant on the left is before O&M and maintenance, and then on the right is after. You can see that the guys watched that. You might have heard in Rancho, the week of Aqua, the fire department was accidentally flowing some hydrants a little hard. And so we had crews working late into the evening actually to clear that up, because what happens is if you flow a hydrant too quickly, you take all of this settled iron and manganese that lives on the bottom of these mains and you put it into solution like that. And then when somebody goes to use their tap, this is what they pull into the house. And then that draws our crew out and we'll flush the system until all of this is gone. And so as you can imagine, the amount of water we filter, Jenny Lind water plant is a 6 million gallon a day water plant. And you have manganese and iron in microscopic solution. And most of it is filtered out and oxidized, but a little tiny bit makes it through. And, misery loves company. So they all find each other in our water mains. And when the velocity is kicked up, that's what happens.
Damon, I think it was at a couple weeks ago at Aqua Conference in some seminar, there was color coded fire hydrants. I think I saw it there. And it was each one of them had a different flow. I mean, a different
right.
pressure, but they had different color bonnets.
That's exactly right.
Do we have color coded based on the amount of pressure it's here?
Ebbets Pass does. So the Ebbets Pass Fire Department will color code the hydrants based on the estimated flow rate. But generally throughout the systems, you're going to see this kind of safety yellow. It's been discussed in the past about everybody following the NFPA. So that's an NFPA kind of a universal flow diagram. So if it's red, it's with 200 gallons a minute and below. If it's blue, it's like 2,000 plus. And so when a water district talks to the fire department, they always want to put that responsibility or that kind of expertise in the hands of the fire folks. But there is definitely a coordination between the engineering hydraulics around the system and what that fire hydrant will actually push out relative to operating pressure around the neighborhood. So it does get a little interesting when you have some service areas that have lower than optimal pressure, because technically the fire hydrant might be able to flow 1,000 gallons a minute, but you might put 6 houses in a boil water advisory because you dropped their pressure below 20 psi. So that's kind of where the discussion is.
Can I expand on that? That being the case, do we have a relationship with our fire department where they know which hydrants they can pull, that are premier hydrants, that if they're filling a tender or something of that nature, that they do without, and I believe that we have the ability to at least model the pressure on all of our
That's right.
hydrants.
Yep.
So that's one question. Do we have that relationship? Do they know what are the go-to hydrants that they can take off of without putting people in a boiler water advisory? And then the other thing I'm curious about, you mentioned earlier, working with the fire districts. Do we ever get together and create a list? Because people are continually getting fire insurance cancellation and things of that nature. Have we sat down with the other utilities in the fire district and gone through? I mean, I know a lot of it's just wildland hazards that we can't really do anything about, but for whatever the deficiencies of the system are that we can do something about, have we ever sat down with them to get a list that we can start chipping away at to improve on that ISO rating?
Great questions. So we do have those relationships with the fire departments. They know where they can pull, and they know where, if they're going to need to pull, they should call us first, and we're going to send somebody out, or we're going to work with them on how much they can pull. So that happens actually all the time. And a matter of fact, we actually talked to Chief Dickinson in the Jenny Lynn system just recently about having another training. So periodically, our crews will train their newer firefighters on how to operate the system. And that really kind of develops a rapport. And so we actually, Chief and I talked about carrying that over and just trying to have a routine, like once a quarter, we just all get together. So we kind of, if there's any barriers or if there's any issues between who's operating the fire hydrant and their perception about how we're maintaining that, we can eliminate all of that. So that happens. In terms of
maybe it's an agenda item for the engineering committee. I just like to know how the relationship is working. Maybe we get, Chief Dickinson and somebody else in to have that discussion, because, I just want to make sure we're not leaving the easy things unturned. I mean, if we can do some easy things, some of the hard things, we just need to start to budget them. I mean, that's a big problem for people right now. I know the AB tank is going to be a big, solution, or not a solution for mine, but it's going to be an improvement in my area.
Right.
Because we can be able to keep that, tank full. But, I want to know what other things are out there that could be our responsibility, maybe are our responsibility, or absolutely our responsibility, and make sure that we're doing it also.
I can bring something back to the engineering committee, no problem. To follow that up, Chief Dickinson, all of the fire chiefs actually have reached out to me about locations for fire hydrants and ideas about how to improve overall fire protection within their systems. And they all have a kind of a wish list, if you will, of, hey, if you guys ever do X, we would love to see something on this, in the corner of here. So that,
I'd really like to go I don't understand what's entailed in the ISO rating. If
water is about 70% of the overall rating. Yeah.
Well, I know, but I also know that the wildland fire rating, and it'd be nice to see where that boundary is. What neighborhoods are in that boundary, and I think the public is really kind of, I don't know. I haven't seen anything that really gives people a good explanation of why their fire insurance is getting canceled.
Right. Yeah. Well, and that's, just in consideration of the Rancho system recently, the ISO rating dropped, and it was a real improvement in the actual rating, and that was in due in large part to how much information was conveyed about the water system. And so I'll bring that information to you as well, so we can kind of have a whole.
Well, yeah, that's the kind of stuff that people need to know that,
right,
that we're doing as well. I mean, that's,
yeah,
this is one of the most important items out there for people right now.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Damon, isn't there a ratio? And as I recall, there should be a fire hydrant every 500 feet
That's right.
on a line. So there'd be 10 and a half of them per mile.
Right.
Are there places where we exceed that 500 foot?
Meaning not as many as there should be, or meaning more fire hydrants within a smaller area?
I'm just talking about, do we sometimes go 1,000 feet between hydrants?
Oh, yeah.
I would say, yeah, absolutely. Yes. So
why aren't we complying with the 500 foot rule?
Well, so the system could be, that part of the system could be 25 years old, and there could be a hydrant every X.
Well, if you look through Rancho, you've got,
Right.
you've got, 5-acre lots, 3-acre lots. There isn't, if there was one in every residence,
Right.
they wouldn't meet the 500-foot
Yeah.
boundary.
Right.
Same with Copper Cove and, all, with the exception of the newer subdivisions where that's a requirement. They
Yeah.
just don't exist.
Right. Yeah. And, standards were different in different times, right?
Mhm.
So when the standard changed to require, 6-inch mandatory water mains, then you can actually start effectively installing fire hydrants that are actually going to prove out when they need to be operated as well. So there's a whole host of things that kind of roll into that. And I think it is kind of a timely item for discussion to kind of cover the hydrants in a broad way.
Did this subject come up at the fire awareness that we had up the hill?
Briefly, not in particular, but I mean, we did talk about the ISO rating, for instance, on the pass in 2015. We did work with the chief at that time to the ISO, I think, went from 5 to a 2, which is really good.
Good.
And I did speak with Mike Johnson about that, Chief Johnson, about just communicating that, because I think, again, like Damon said, the water system is a huge component of the ISO rating. So it was touched upon, but not in this
Not in
detail.
any,
What's the
Yeah.
acronym, the ISO? Can you spell that out?
It's the insurance service office. So it's essentially,
the insurance is
yeah,
rating it for you.
it's the insurance rating. Exactly, which reviews the overall recommendation for the homeowner's insurance for these different areas, and
They're huge.
Right.
They also, ISO also creates all the forms that insurance companies can use. I mean, the 20-page document that you can use for your homeowner's insurance or your auto insurance, all those are approved by
Yeah.
ISO too. They're huge and,
So
Right.
we're off agenda here. Can we bring this to engineering committee? We're
Yeah.
going into quite a bit of detail here on this one. But
Yeah.
we'll bring it to the engineering committee.
All right,
But-
thank you.
And one item to highlight as we leave the fire hydrant discussion is this image on the right. That's one of the huge problems with our systems is that is a newly installed guard valve in front of that hydrant. So if that hydrant has an issue or somebody hits it and breaks it, without a guard valve, you're shutting the whole community's affected. And so one of the focuses, moving forward is going to be to really kind of install these valves on our systems so that we don't have to impact everybody to resolve a smaller issue.
That's something we've been working on for quite some time.
Yeah, absolutely, right. Yep, absolutely. So more of, what you've seen in the past, flare replacement on a water main, coupling, just PRV maintenance. You can see the spray from all the control valve piping that's failed. So when our guys, have a more robust system that's not full of service lateral leaks, they can actually get to PRV maintenance. This is kind of that theme, fire hydrant maintenance, reviewing valve operation and then going out and operating valves that need to be improved. Oh, there we go. I'm up on me for a second there. Let's see here, I want to show you. Yeah, so here's a great picture of a service line. This is happening, district wide. So as you guys know, I'm just continuing to replace service laterals all over all of our service areas. And just this is a testament to our guys' ability to understand, based on listening to a water line leak, where the failure is, and to bore a hole literally right on top of the issue and make a repair. So that minimizes the impact to the overall street, which is great. This theme is roots. You can see just how many roots had to be cut out just to access this line to make a replacement. So there's a section of that main pulled out and replaced. Here's a line break that happened near Snowshoe on the weekend, and our crews were hot on it, went out there and made that repair. This is a surge relief repair. This actually, in my mind, it looks like it's a replacement of that control valve. So it's called a CRL, or a control relief valve, and it's a pilot control that operates that valve itself there. These can be quite scary because they can deal with a lot of pressure on the upstream side, so they can rattle and shake and make a ton of noise, and be somewhat intimidating. There's an example of our crews making a repair on a district facility. So this is the Vallecito waste plant. The image on the left is kind of a an overall shot of the crew with the vac truck. And the image is the close-up of what they're actually using the vac on to access. And you can see that service line down there. And this serves a wash down rack for a trash rack for a sewer system. So it's kind of critical. It's very sanitary to have water there so you can keep that thing clean. It's pretty deep. You can see that in the image on the right is the new service tied in with a coupling down there by the base rock. And we did, it wasn't actually the official end of winter, but we did have a snowstorm in May. I don't think the dogwoods had bloomed yet, right? So we knew that it wasn't going to be winter. But, it's always interesting when you have crew that's starting to kind of turn their focus towards springtime, summertime activity, and you get the, oh, no, we're not done yet. So that's what this was. And one of the things I wanted to highlight in these slides is you can see the image on the right, you can see the power lines. And this is Highway 4, and we have an operator stuck in traffic near the power lines. And this does not seem to be a common theme that's considered by the California Air Resources Board when they talk about electric vehicles. But this happens to us almost every winter while we have significant electrical outage and PG&E on site working to make repairs. And in the future, we're going to have to operate electric trucks in this environment and ensure that the continued uninterrupted supply of water, the safe removal of wastewater continues to happen while we're operating all of our stuff on generator. So just, want to keep, hammering that point home. It's
Got to make sure that our electric trucks can tow a diesel generator.
Exactly, right. Here's the Forest Meadows Golf Course Pond. It looks really good this spring, knock on wood. They've taken a very active role in making sure that pond continues to not have algae to the extent that it had in the recent past. You can see that our folks maintain that fence. The image on the left is the old fencing and the image on the right is the updated fence.
That's the homeowners that are doing that, right?
Yeah.
Have we gotten any complaints about the smell?
We have not. So they've been doing a really good job. That's what I mean of maintaining that pond this year. So that's great. And here's some of the FEMA dollars that the district received at work. So this is the fence of the Valley Springs property that the district owned.
Every rancher in the county would be envious of that fence line.
Yeah. And thanks to FEMA for giving us the $15,000 to reestablish it. And our guys did a great job. And we get a lot of calls from ranchers about that property, just so you know.
And so the lease is coming up pretty soon.
This fall. Yeah. This late summer, fall. Yeah. And so here's some building rehab, building repair. So the image on the right, you can see actually membrane cartridges for the Vallecito waste facility. So these are actually filters that are backup filters. So if these membrane cartridges get fouled, we can drop those in. That room is climate controlled, but it wasn't insulated. So we were just hemorrhaging money trying to keep that thing cool. And so through the GL and the ops budget, we were able to get that building insulated. So that's been a great help. Here's some continued maintenance from the mechanics. So one of the things they wanted you to see is this image on the left. There's some wire that if it keeps the structural integrity of a flexible hose that works on the water pump up in the back on. Well, that wire disintegrated and the water pump ate it and it damaged the water pump. And so our guys wanted to show you that sometimes, things do get missed in the design of this infrastructure. So they went ahead and replaced that flex hose with some hard pipe so that we lose that wire that can ultimately destroy a water pump in the future. The image on the right shows you what an odor control unit looks like. So we have a couple of these throughout the district at different areas, lift stations and at waste facilities. So that 55-gallon drum is full of anthracite coal, and we suck air through it, foul air, and that coal filters that foul air and pushes out clean air. So periodically, the guys have to replace that media. Aerator replacement. The image on the left shows the aerator in the foreground not operating. So the guys have to pull that thing to shore, troubleshoot it, make a repair, and put it back out. And so in this case, it was a happy repair because it was a fuse. The electricians are always at work. They have probably the biggest list in the ops report, it seems. They're always knocking out all different kinds of things. So here's a pump control unit that they replaced up at Dorrington. Sometimes this is an interesting one. So PG&E had a planned outage near Huckleberry. So our folks always make sure to stay on site and monitor the work effort of PG&E and their subcontractors to make sure they don't negatively impact our infrastructure. And that's kind of what's happening here. So you see the photos through the windshield, so to speak. And then no month is complete without a tour. So in this case, we took district staff down to the hydropower facility operated by MID at Hogan. And it was a really good tour. And then we went ahead and went to the Jenny Lind water plant afterwards. So a really interesting little hydro facility. And then I don't think you all see this very often. This is the construction crew in the midst of CPR training. So one thing, you know, that we always need to be mindful of is safety and training, and those go hand in hand. And there's a couple, 3 guys on the construction crew hard at work to get their CPR certification.
Nice. And what is your staff in operations now?
That's a great question. We have,
How, and you mean how many?
yeah, it's
45?
45, close to 50, yeah.
And
Covering, you know,
Yeah.
a range of disciplines, right? It really, I think, you know, CCWD is getting to that point where we can actually cradle to grave complete, find an issue or encounter a problem and work to resolve the problem internally with the skills and the talents that our folks have without going out of house really.
so you still have a couple of job openings because you
Yes.
have in Valley Springs News, I see the.
Yeah, collection
Mhm.
worker, yeah,
Mhm.
yep. We're looking for the best and the brightest.
Uh-huh.
Oh,
And we'll find them in Valley Springs, right?
absolutely.
Uh-huh.
Yes, absolutely.
There's a couple good candidates I know that have applied.
Yes. Oh, there's some great name. Yeah, there's some great skill sets on that list. But
Out of curiosity, is anybody in this room, you know, qualified for the CPR training, or is the board just on its own?
oh no, I think we're good to go. Yeah, we're good. Yeah, all of us take it.
Already.
Yeah.
You know, I'm feeling okay right now.
Yeah.
These guys, yeah.
Yeah.
Keep us posted.
Yeah. Thank you, guys.
Hey, thanks, David.
Thanks.
Thank you, Damon. All right, 7B, General Manager's Report. Michael?
Okay, I normally start off by saying this will be quick. I'm not going to fool you today. It's not going to be quick.
Need a buzzer. Do we have any public comment on the ops report? Come on up, Michael.
Mike Castro, Valley Springs. First off, thank you, Jeff, for your questions on ISO and your interest in what CCWD is doing currently and may do in the future to help the residents of Calaveras County. And you indicated there were someplace around 8 or so fire hydrants that are currently out of service. Why are they out of service, and what's it going to take to get them back in, and what's the projected time period that they'll be back in order? I'm just curious.
Yeah. No, great questions. So they can be out of service for any number of reasons. Usually it's something to do with the mechanism that operates the hydrant, whether it be the shoe, the shaft, the operating nut, something is broken there. And really what it takes, some of these can be out of service because the shutdown will be quite challenging. So one of the things actually happened yesterday, and it will happen again tomorrow, is that we have our construction crew working with the distribution crew to install valves in order to reduce the size of a shutdown in case there needs to be a system isolation. And so some of these hydrants remain out of service for an extended period of time because to shut the system down and fix the hydrant, you potentially have to shut off 800 to 1,000 people. And so we need to kind of work forward and install some valves to reduce the size of that shutdown. And then most of the time we can repair and put a hydrant back into service within a day. And so one of the focuses for this upcoming fiscal year is to get all of the hydrants that are out of service. So whether they've been out of service for 6 months or a year, back in service. And so the time, when you ask the question of the timeline, it can vary. It really depends on how complicated the shutdown needs to be in order to reestablish them.
Are there any on that AB stretch
That are on that,
that are out that are on that stretch?
not that I know of, no.
I can recall when years ago when I was on the board, we had in Rancho, we had many hydrants that just, they weren't even really attached. People, it was always the worry that somebody would pull up to it, try to draw water, and there's nothing there.
Right.
But we've eliminated those.
Yeah, there's been significant work over the years, because I can remember the number of out of service hydrants in the teens, even as recently as 2018. And so that we're really starting to kind of whittle that down and get rid of that.
So as a project opportunity arises in that, if we're going to have to shut 1,000 down, we will be doing any of those repairs during that time frame, right?
Yes,
I would hope we'd be
exactly.
planning like that.
Right. Yes, exactly right. Yeah.
Okay, with that, Michael, are you still prepared?
It's already a tough act to follow, but I'll do my best. So I'll start with some, I think, positive news. I was at the Angels Camp City Council meeting last night, where the Angels Camp City Council unanimously approved the resolution that this board approved last month, regarding the collaborative water supply study that we're embarking on with Utica Angels Camp and Union Public Utilities District. So they were the last of the 4 agencies to act on that resolution. Now all 4 agencies have unanimously adopted that resolution. So we're really excited about that. It was a really positive discussion, really positive meeting last night. And we're already talking about next steps and really diving into that work effort. So good news on that front. Oh, I'm sorry. I was going to start with, we have a couple of new employees. So we finally were able to fill our vacancy in IT. So we now have 2 in IT, both, if you forget their names, you can just call them Mr. Smith, because they are both Mr. Smith. But Quentin Smith is the new IT specialist. So excited to have him here, and also Bana I'm gonna mess it up. Rusang Gadesi, our water resources specialist, is a couple weeks in now, and so we're really excited to have that department fully staffed now. So we're kind of getting our numbers up. As Damon mentioned, we still have some turnover in operations, still have a vacancy in engineering, but we're getting good.
Will we have a chance to meet them? I mean, I thought they were going to come.
We can coordinate that. Sure. Yeah. So then, yeah, H4U was the next one. Sorry, that water resources partnership with the Highway 4 agencies, off and running with that one. A lot of work on the North Fork project right now. President Thomas and Director Davidson were here Monday to meet with our FERC consultant, who was in from the East Coast this week, and we had a negotiating session with NCPA yesterday, and then site visits in the afternoon to get some of our team that's familiar with some of the North Fork project facilities and operations. And I'm planning to be at the NCPA mission meeting tomorrow morning. So a real high focus for us and high priority for us right now is North Fork project work. But in addition to that, among our highest priorities always is our budget. So budget development has been underway, really collaborative team effort. So I really appreciate all the staff that have been working on that, and our consultant, Bailey, that's been providing a new perspective and a new look to the budget. We'll have that in front of the Finance Committee tomorrow afternoon, and then a special board meeting next Wednesday to just workshop the budget. So that will be the only open session agenda item for that board meeting next Wednesday. We'll be really diving into the budget. There are a lot of changes this year, structural changes, creating a hydro enterprise fund, and in addition to the changes to the rate structure that we implemented. So there's a lot of changes on top of changes. So there's, and then a new format at the same time, which I think we're really excited about. And I think it will hopefully be more transparent and easier to navigate and easier to use. But there's just a lot of, it's kind of a re-education for all of us on the budget. So we're expecting and we're prepared for a lot of questions and a lot of work on that. That's why we wanted to dedicate next Wednesday's meeting to the budget.
When will we get the packet ahead of time or?
So the finance committee packet went out last Friday. We wanted to make sure you
Well,
had
yeah,
it
that
well
one,
in
yeah,
advance.
but the other one for the 29th.
It will look probably very similar to the finance committee packet. So
okay.
the idea was that we present that to the finance committee tomorrow. We'll have a short amount of time to incorporate feedback from finance committee, but we'll also be presenting something very similar to that to the full board the following week. And then take all of that feedback from the board and hopefully have it ready for adoption on I think it's June 12th board meeting. And so we'll have the time after next Wednesday's board meeting, we'll have time to incorporate feedback and changes and updates and bring it back for adoption on the June 12th board meeting. That's the plan. But as far as the budget documents themselves go, we're assuming that the one that goes out Friday for next week's board meeting will look very similar to the one that went out last Friday for tomorrow's finance committee meeting. Let's see, some other good news. We have a second slurry line customer. We've finalized that agreement. And so there's a second slurry line customer just very close to the existing customer. So construction will be installing the turnout and the meter set for that connection probably in the next few weeks and get them up and running. We released a press release late last week, I think it was, the 11.2 million that we requested for Army Corps funding for Copper Cove was included in the Army Corps work plan. We knew a few months ago that it was in the federal budget. It had been appropriated,
Right.
but it's not real and done and official until it's in the Army Corps work plan for fiscal year 24. That came out last week, and so we made the announcement in the press release. So that brings the total amount appropriated for that project up to 13.2 million. We are working really hard with the Army Corps to deliver that project as efficiently as possible. It is a very challenging and bureaucratic process that we have to work through, but it's a significant amount of funding that helps all of our customers in any service area because it otherwise, it frees up money that we would otherwise have to use for that project. So working really hard to deliver now that those funds have been appropriated. And then related to that, we did our virtual DC meetings last week. The Army Corps funding is always a big part of that federal advocacy that we do. So meetings with Army Corps headquarters, the Assistant Secretary of the Army's office, with Office of Management and Budget, but then also, of course, with our elected representatives, staffs, and with Congressman McClintock and Congressman Garamendi themselves. And really getting a lot of support from all of those folks. Congressman McClintock, I think we got two or three letters of support that come out of them out of that one meeting. One for the biomass project in West Point, and one to the colonel that is in charge of the Sacramento district for the Army Corps. So on that related to our project. So really productive, positive meetings and just maintaining those relationships has obviously proven to be really effective and important for us. And Mia, as always, does a phenomenal job in coordinating all that, setting up those meetings and making sure we're talking to the right people and that we have, we're framing the messages properly. So can't say enough about how fantastic Mia is at setting all of that up. I gotta also give a shout out to Kelly G in the room for, he could probably have done just as long of a external affairs report as Damon's ops report was with all that he's been doing. He's been everywhere lately, including spending a lot of time, not only, setting up our booth at the fair, but he staffed it himself for a lot of the time out there, and a lot of good one-on-one interactions with customers. And also the wildfire awareness presentation he gave 2 Saturdays ago, I think it was. Just he's all over giving really, really fantastic presentations and a lot of interaction with customers. So really appreciate all of that work. And several of us were at the Aqua Conference a couple weeks ago. A lot, as always, it's a kind of a hectic time, but a lot of information sharing, really good sessions, really good dialogue among water agencies. One of the highlights this year was the governor showing up and taking a few minutes from Secretary Crowfoot's keynote address to send a message to the water industry that it's his intent to build sites and to build the Delta tunnels before he leaves office, and he's got 3 years left to do it. So stand by. That was kind of the gist of the message from Governor Newsom, was he is determined on delivering those projects.
Did anybody have a straight face?
I think there were a few that got up and walked out, but
He abandoned his train.
Yeah. All the water down the train.
so we'll see if he's able to deliver on those things. But he delivered a determined message, at least, if nothing else.
Good for you.
But yeah, it was also just,
Sounds like they know.
it's interesting. One of the enjoyable parts of the Aqua conferences for me, the longer I'm at CCWD, is getting to connect with former CCWD staff more and more. And, the more turnover we have and the more that they end up in different places. I've spent a lot of quality time with Peter Martin and Brad Arnold, and I had a really good discussion with June Lopez, trying to invite her to come up here and check in with us. And she sounded really interested in that. So the longer I'm here and the more that people move on into other agencies, Aqua conferences become sort of a bit of a reunion for former CCWD staff in other places. So
You didn't even mention Mr. Egerton.
oh, that guy.
Yeah, you see him all the time.
Or Ed Patterson.
Yeah, Ed was there.
Ed's down there. Yeah, all sorts of people. They're all over the place now. So yeah, it was really, really good Aqua conference. Let's see, we also had the ad hoc surplus property committee committee met a couple of weeks ago. I think we've got a couple of irons in the fire on that one. We'll have a follow-up meeting in a few weeks here, I think. So that work is still underway. We had a Calaveras County 2x2, a couple of our directors and a couple of supervisors with the county. Really productive. I think, it's one of those things that reflect back on the difference between urgent and important. And it's important to do that and to maintain those relationships, but it sometimes gets pushed because it's not urgent necessarily. And it was for me, just a good reminder of, that we need to prioritize those. And so thank you for those directors that were there and urging me to do that. And we'll make sure we do that regularly. It's great to build those relationships when stuff's not on fire. Because, it happens when stuff is on fire, when we're having to interact and rely on those folks and vice versa. And it's great to have those, a foundation for those relationships in advance. Damon mentioned a lot of training that's going on, HR and operations really leading the way on that, including right now we have incident command system training that all of our employees are going through, which is great. And I think really helping step up our emergency preparedness game. And that'll be part of, an ongoing effort going forward. So we'll be doing more of that in the future as well. Let's see, we had an external relations committee meeting since our last board meeting, and we have another one coming up. Is it next week?
Next week.
Next week. So looking forward to external relations. We also will be meeting with Tuolumne Utilities District. I think I've given the board updates on that, for a few years now. We've had really productive working relationship with, their management team and ours, meeting periodically. Our systems are so similar. We're dealing with a lot of the same issues. And so just having that exchange on a regular basis, kind of similar to that 2x2, where we have a mutual assistance agreement in place. If there's ever an emergency, we know we can call on each other. But sharing information and knowledge and building that relationship when things are calm is really productive on that front too. We also have the first week in June is going to be, I think we're shooting, we might break the record for meetings that week. I don't know. We'll see. But we've got a lot. Legal affairs and engineering committees both meet on the 4th. On June 5th, we will have a town hall meeting in Valley Springs to talk about the A to B project. We'll talk about other stuff too, but primarily the purpose of that meeting is to discuss construction impacts. And
When did that become on our calendar?
that,
I hadn't heard anything about that till right here.
oh no, you have. I thought we talked to both of you guys about making sure you're available for that meeting. But we'll follow up with you to make sure that.
Wednesday night, June 5th?
Yes.
No. I mean,
Okay.
I'd like to talk about it later also.
We'll follow up.
Just
on that.
the Wednesday may not work for me.
Okay. I don't think we've done any public outreach on it yet.
Tuesday, Thursday probably be fine.
Okay. We'll follow up with you guys.
Thursday-
That may be rescheduled. June 6th, not to steal any thunder from Director Ratterman, and I'll let Director Ratterman talk about the legislative days because you were there with Mountain Counties, but also that reception for Mountain Counties in Moke Hill at the Renegade on June 6th. So that you should be seeing an email blast coming from Justin at Mountain Counties today or tomorrow to register for that event. And then let's see, I will be out the week of June 17th. Hopefully we will have an adopted budget by then, and so you won't even miss me. But no board meetings that week, so.
Yeah, we had finance on the 18th.
Yeah. So
We'll have finance without you.
you will be in the capable hands of the finance team.
Mhm.
I'm sure you won't even.
Oh, okay, well, that's. Mhm.
I believe that's all I had.
That's it.
Yes, thank you.
I have a couple of questions for you, Michael.
Sure.
Can you give us a thumbnail description about the status of the biomass finance situation or?
Yeah, so really, they are just the Blue Mountain Electric Company, chomping at the bit to start construction. They want to get going as quickly as possible. One final finance approval is the only thing holding them up. It's through USDA, the loan guarantee that they need. We are hoping to have really good news on that tomorrow. Actually, I think the USDA committee that approves that will be reconvening tomorrow and reconsidering that package. Senator Alvarado Gill was gracious enough to send a letter of support to urging USDA to approve that, and Congressman McClintock has as well. So we're doing everything we can on the advocacy side of things to encourage USDA to approve that as quickly as possible, since they're running short on time to actually get into construction and interconnect to the grid up there within the other time constraints that the project has. So hopefully we'll have good news to share on that in the near future.
It also was pretty significant that our Region 3 meeting, how
Thank you for
almost
bringing that up.
disproportional our representation of Calaveras County contingent is really very, very significantly represented there. That made me very proud. So
I'm glad you mentioned that. I had meant to address that as well. I was really proud of as well that Region 3 is a fairly large region. It kind of overlaps with the Mountain Counties region as well. But those are really informative meetings. There's a large group of people in those meetings. And of all of the different report outs, Senator Alvarado Gill was there presenting at that one again this year. But of all of the different report outs that the committee has, I actually went through and counted them. There's 13 different reports out that happened in those meetings. And I think it was 5 of them that were given by CCWD employees or board members. And that's with, I don't know, dozens of water agencies that are included in that region. So yeah, I would say a really positive note or, disproportionate representation of, to me, that means that Aqua is looking to us to be a source of information and a resource for other agencies. And that's exactly the position we want to be in.
Yeah, that was good. And I mentioned early on that I wanted to say something about your presentation at that Region 3 thing. Kelly really impressed all of us that were there, that he seemed like that he'd been doing that for a decade. And it was really, really impressive.
We are very proud.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, moving on to other
Real quick
Public-
too, in fact, not just Region 3, Damon participated, he
Oh,
was
yeah.
a reporter at one of the regions, for one of the Region 3 things, but then also was a panelist on one of the sessions and for the Energy Committee. And, that just, again, helps to both for, sort of, I don't know, all sorts of purposes from the public relations front to get CCWD's name out there, but it also just shows how much that other agencies and Aqua are relying on CCWD staff as resources. So
And he shined in that
He was- yes.
presentation.
he was, of course,
Awesome.
I mean, that goes without saying. No.
Yeah, no, he did.
But he
stood
was
out.
fantastic. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So no,
Every
it was
one of them
great.
did a great job.
It was great.
Are you making any headway with the CARB folks? None?
Yeah, I mean,
Next time it snows on the dogwoods, bring them up.
we certainly can't make headway if we don't try, right? And we may not anyways, but we gotta put up the fight, and Damon's a leader in that fight statewide.
Okay, we have online public comment.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
go ahead.
For the new employees, would it be possible to see a copy of their resumes?
Who is it?
Who's talking?
This is Francisco.
Hi, Francisco.
How you doing?
Good.
Yeah, we don't share HR files publicly.
That answers that. Thanks.
You mentioned a qualification, 3 letters. I can't remember what they were, that both our tech guys have. So, I mean, that's in a way that is an indication of qualifications, isn't it? And
Well,
he's asking for a resume on a new employee, and I'm assuming he's talking about the IT guy. And you said that both of our IT guys they have a certain designation.
no, I just
Same last
I was
name.
making a joke. That they're
Oh,
both Mr.
I heard that too, but I thought that there was some sort of a,
No, but they're both all qualified. We're lucky to have them.
okay. Yeah. So do you have some additional comment?
So on the $11+ million grant, throughout the year, the money that comes in as these grants are granted, how do you account for everything that accumulates for the year? And how do we know that it's not being spent on other things? I'm just thinking it should be like in a separate account where it takes down the capital improvement costs by the end of the year.
Yeah, so
I'm just wondering the tracking on it.
it absolutely, we have to, but we also, it depends on the source of funds. And so if it's a grant, so this is not a grant, this is a legislative appropriation. which is a technical difference, I guess. And there's a 25% required local match. But the way different programs function in different ways, the way this Army Corps program functions, we don't actually receive that money ourselves. We're not writing that check. The Corps actually will issue the contract for the construction of that project, but the money is set aside so that the money is in the bank at the Sacramento district of the Army Corps, and that's where it will stay until they start writing checks to the contractor that is working on the project. And then we're responsible for 25% of the cost of the project, and our local share can either be an in-kind contribution through staff time or other contributions that we're making that we're already racking up. Or it can be a financial contribution depending on where we are in terms of the 25% local share. But so that's how that program works. And that one was incorporated in the 5-year financial plan. The money had been authorized by Congress. It hadn't been appropriated yet. But because the money had been authorized, that was incorporated in the financial plan already. Grant funds can be different. So often with grant funding, like the West Point Wilseyville consolidation project that we're about halfway through right now, maybe a little bit more than half. That's a reimbursement program where CCWD hires the contractor. We spend the money. We send a report to the water board. In that case, they send us a reimbursement for the project. So everything has to be tracked and accounted for separately, and the funds can only be used for that project. So when we get grant funds, they come with all sorts of strings attached and monitoring and accounting requirements. We can't use those funds for anything but that intended purpose. I can't think of any funding agency that gives us money where we would have that discretion to say, oh, we're just going to use it for something else.
All of our capital improvement projects have a line item and are paid for directly. There's no general fund that we're pulling money out of willy-nilly.
That's true for any project, right? Whether it's funded with an external source or internal source, we have identified that source of funds.
Budgeted and reviewed, several times a year.
Right.
I want to mention that the core project is unique in as much as they are designing it. Our engineering department is not designing it, the Corps is designing it.
We are designing it. So that is actually one of our in-kind contributions for this project. Is our engineering consultant is designing it in collaboration with our engineers, but that counts as part of our in-kind contribution towards the local share for the project. So right now we are deep in the design phase and the environmental review phase for that project. And that once that is complete, that will then be moved to bid documents for a construction contract, and that's when the Corps will take over and award the construction contract.
Okay, well, I was under the impression that they were significantly involved in the design as well.
They will review, so they are. They will review submittals though, rather than they're not designing it themselves. And we really kind of insisted is not the right word, but we were very clear with them from the get-go that this is a wastewater treatment plant is not a typical Army Corps project. And we are in a much better position to design this project than the Army Corps is. And they were perfectly fine with agreeing with that. They didn't push back on that at all. So they're fine with us designing it and we were fine with taking that on as long as it counts towards our in-kind contribution.
Okay, great.
It's a pretty obscure program, and it's really, there aren't that few of these authorizations out there throughout the country, but it's really going to be great if we knock this out of the park, because it's a good opportunity for the future projects, for other districts. So it's going to be exciting to get it knocked out and done well and to have everybody be happy.
Yeah, it is a relatively small, as far as federal programs go, relatively small program. In fact, the 11.2 million sounds small on the scale of the federal budget, but for this program, it was the largest award for any project in the state of California. And Kelly, how many? Fourth largest nationwide? Third largest nationwide.
And from what I understand, the Sacramento group, this is their first Section 219 program and project that they've ever worked with at all. So
Right.
they had no experience with Section 219 funding through the Army Corps.
And we've had some learning experiences
Pretty,
because of that.
yeah, they've had some learning experiences. It's a
Right,
pretty
right,
obscure program.
Right.
Okay, may we proceed with other things? Okay,
Is
Director
that all
Takeda,
that Francisco wanted?
I think so.
Okay, so I attended the Aqua Conference and as usual, I enjoyed it. Met a lot of new people that I hadn't met before. When you have those morning breakfasts and the lunch, I made it a point not to sit with anybody I knew. So I got to meet a lot of nice people and it seemed like the topic of conversation were the rates and how much costs and regulations were going up. That was kind of the thing at the table. And as far as the programs, I focused on the finance ones. And those were the ones that I had more notes than anything. One was there was one called Liquid Intelligence Lessons Learned, which was really interesting. I wasn't sure what I was in for, but a lot of notes on there. Also the fiscal sustainability in times of uncertainty. That again, I have, 3, 4, several pages of notes on that. And the rate study one, how to conduct a rate study. And I came away with more tools for budgeting and for the next rate study. So I'm kind of looking forward to using some of those things I learned. I think the funnest one I attended was the cybersecurity liquid assets. There was an FBI agent that did that presentation and he was really kind of fun. It was like, it went by so fast. I was like, no, wait, I want some more. It was really good. I mean, he could have probably presented for 3 hours and had a lot of information. And I was sitting with Kelly R on that one. And I kept thinking, oh, do we have that? Do we have that? And she kept saying, we got all that. Meaning all the, the things in place to protect, the security. So that was really cool. And then so anyhow, I really enjoyed it. It was in Sacramento. So it was a nice, drive, not like going to some other places. So yeah, it was really nice. And then the other day, Fred and we took a drive to White Pines and it is absolutely beautiful. I hadn't seen it all cleared out where all the people can sit and stuff. It's like, oh my gosh. And we were actually, because we're in a Jeep, so we were actually able to go behind the diamond, the gates open. You can go all the way back there. We can go from White Pines to our house if you have directions, if you know which roads to go on. But yeah, White Pines looks great. And I'm thinking of doing some kayaking there pretty soon, with the girls kind of a thing.
If you haven't been to White
I
Pines in the
know.
last year or so, it is.
Oh, it's amazing.
It is spectacular what our crew has done up there. Really,
It-
really good.
Our crew did all the clearing of where all the tables are and stuff. Oh my goodness. You make sure
Yeah.
you tell them how good it is. Yeah, I was surprised. I wasn't expecting that. I had seen
did-
kind of the water where it was all the
It's
cattails were.
it's beautiful. It's just,
I know, I
breathtaking.
went there and I can't wait to go back again. This time, get in the water or something. I see the rope swing is still there. I could tell you about the rope swing one time real quick. Kid was out there and 2 kids swam across the pond to go to the rope swing and he fell off, broke his arm and I had to drive him around to the front of the lake. His bone was like right here. Yeah, it was weird. And his parents were on the other side and they were like 12 years old.
Remember that
Anyhow.
day Cindy talked about the rope swing, then the next week it took it down?
Anyhow, it was still there.
Mark this.
We're talking, this was like 20 years ago. Anyhow, the other thing is Mountain Ranch is having a community yard sale this Saturday if anybody wants to attend.
Okay, you didn't talk anything about meeting the other CCWD folks at the Hanson Bridget dinner.
Other CCWD, yeah, I remember the dinner. But what?
The Contra Costa Water District folks.
Oh, I don't, those guys were all over the board. I couldn't even, what are their names? I don't remember. Anyhow, the dinner was really nice. The people we were sitting with. Oh yeah, that's right. It was CCWD.
I told them they were imposters.
Yeah, they were from Contra Costa Water Agency, but
Yeah.
they were really fun. Every one of them very different. And I'm thinking, oh, they're all sitting at the table. They're very different, all wonderful people. But yeah, you could talk about them. Okay, that's it.
Bertha, can you go next?
Well, I just want to add more accolades for Kelly because he presented, took his little video or laptop and made a presentation at the White Pines Park Committee. And I mean, they were just blown away with the presentation that Kelly had put together. So I'm just, yeah, I was very proud of the job that he did. And I really don't have a lot.
Dr. Redmond?
Yeah, a lot of the things Michael covered already. I did go to the Aqua Conference and the JPIA Summit on Monday and Tuesday of that week. Mountain Counties had a legislative day last Wednesday in the Capitol. Very well done. We had 3 different state lobbyists with our groups. We had divided us up into groups of 8 or 9 people. So we had 3 groups, each of us touring individually different offices of and not our own senators and assemblymen, but others that were in key committees that might be. And our message was that 40% of California's water comes from the mountain county regions, and that was and that all of us are in huge need of infrastructure replacement. And then the third item that we kind of hit on was the potential of a bond, a climate resiliency bond that may or may not happen later on this year and may or may not include funds for water. But we did find out that schools, water, and education, housing, and the housing may be thrown out, but it most likely is going to, if there is a bond on the November ballot, most likely will involve this climate resiliency, which will include funds for infrastructure. And we're really looking at talking to everybody. And John Coleman and Kelly G were in our group along with a few other people from Calaveras County, Joel, Jessica. But anyway, we wandered around from room to room all day long, and then we had a reception later on that day. It was well done, well received, and I think we're gonna continue doing it in the future. Michael did talk about our DC virtual visits, and we just spent a little bit of time talking about that Army Corps funding. And just to follow up on that, we got $1 million through the same program 2 years ago, $1 million last year, 11.2 this year, and we're looking for 3.1 in next year's fiscal year for all from the Army Corps. It's going to total $16 million. We've been working on this for 8 or 9 years, going to DC, meeting with these same exact people. The person in the chair changes, their job doesn't. But this has been a big push. At the very beginning, we heard many times that there's already funding in process. There's already other projects that we're working on. It's hard to get your foot in the door. Well, now we got our foot in the door. This is going to be a $20 million project. They're going to pick up most likely 16 million, and then 25% match will be ours. So the press release just went out on this, and I don't think it's hit the local papers. It certainly hit social media. But no, that is a huge deal. And the real estate committee, ad hoc committee, I think Michael already touched on that. What I'd like to throw something out here on the 2 committees that I serve on, the legal affairs and the ad hoc real estate. We got good reports on those today. What I'd like to hear from my fellow board members is, and I haven't heard in years what's going on in engineering committee. We hear about it every once in a while. Oh yeah, that was reviewed by engineering. But if we could maybe get a reminder in our put in front of us on our meeting days of our agenda for the meetings on the committees that we serve. For example, Bertha and Cindy might get the finance committee agenda, and just to kind of highlight, tell the rest of the board what happened at that committee. This time for for board reports
Yeah.
is to fill in the rest of the board. And then the same thing with the legal affairs, if you stick that in front of Jeff and I, just a copy of what was, we may remember to bring ours with our notes on it. And the same thing with engineering committee. If we could do that, I think it would help remind us things to report on here. And I know we got the budget coming up and we got, with other, in finance, we just hear about it. We don't get as much details.
There's a problem with that though. I mean, we can ask our attorney, but we could give a report, and then everybody just has to be quiet.
Not necessarily. No, the meeting's already taken place.
No, but it's not agendized. We can't get into any, like, if we give a report on the.
Oh, I see what you're saying,
Am I wrong or am I right? I mean, you just have to, I mean, there's some limitations to it.
Can't discuss the items.
Oh, no, it's a report. It's not an agenda item.
A limited report out.
It's a report.
Kind of about what we
Some
talked
follow-up
about
questions,
or
but
whatever.
Going down a rabbit hole and anything that's not on the agenda, you're right, but it's just a report out on what was on your agenda, what you're discussing, and what might be coming up in the future.
Yeah.
And that would be a good reminder if we had that agenda in front. That's all I got. Hopefully that can happen.
Okay. Want to talk more about that? Director Davidson.
No, I did, just a couple things, yeah, I was also in the, last week's, virtual meetings with, our friends in, DC and yeah, I mean, this is a great accomplishment for the district and the board as a whole. There were, several years back, where we were flat out told, your project doesn't qualify, there are no new projects, and when Scott mentioned, we met with the same people, we met with the same positions, that people change so often, it's just so hard to keep them on track, keep the project, in the forefront, and our federal legislative consultant, Neil O'Connell, has done a terrific job of continually keeping these people focused, and even writing, in many cases, writing, the legislation for them and tell them, no, we're not going to accept that. That's not the truth. There are going to be new projects, and I mean, we were told no many times on that. So it's a good accomplishment to the board for always sticking with that program. It's an accomplishment. I'm really excited to get that project constructed and have it be something where, because your success with federally is contagious. Every time I've been going to the board, going to DC since I think the first time I went to DC was the night that we started the war in Iraq. We were dropping bombs and it was all chaos, but that's how long I've been going there. And the one thing I've met, no matter what you think about the legislators, your political preference or whatever, for the most part, when you sit down with these staffers, and we've met with generals and sometimes we're in the room with the general and there'll be 8 people writing down every word you say. They truly want to help. And if they can fit your project into a federal program that is in the federal interest, they want it to be successful. They want to build projects. They don't just want to, throw money out there. They want to build these things. And I can't think of one staffer that ever was an impediment. I mean, they basically will try to explain to you the federal interest, so you can fit your projects in the federal interest. So anyway, it's been a great experience, and I'm glad to see it, come to fruition. But the other thing that's was good this week is we did do a little FERC kickoff. I'm not gonna say too much about that, but it's great to get that ball rolling for our relicensing. I'm anxious to meet with some of the people here in the near future and try to get established what our direction is as a board on that relicensing. And then just bring one thing up, that Cindy, you brought up about the cyber stuff. It was just in the news the other day that 70% of the water districts nationwide are the I don't know what agency it is, if maybe the FBI says that their cyber security is not adequate. And I'm just curious, I don't think we're in that 70%. I hope we're not. But I think that we've been told that we have a pretty strong system, so it would be interesting to get an update, make sure we're not in that. So
You know, Michael, I would like to have an update because there was one area about the SCADA system, that's where it's the most vulnerable. So maybe if we could get a agenda
Yeah, we could
item to
do,
talk about
we
that to
could do
see
an
how we
update
are.
on that. I mean, we have made investments in that area, but we also still have vulnerabilities and we
Yeah.
have to really dedicate resources to that going forward to make sure that we're keeping up. Because it's also not the kind of thing that you can't just buy cybersecurity and then sit on it. It's an ongoing, as Dylan could explain much better than I can.
It actually
It's an ongoing battle.
they tracked an incident in Texas to a smaller, utilities that were obviously more vulnerable because it's just the nature, but where, they tracked it to a Russian area or operative that basically operated their water treatment plant and allowed them to spill. So it's certainly worth always taking a look at, getting an update.
Sure.
So
It sounds like we got a future agenda item there. JPIA would be happy to send somebody up here to report on that. And the two programs that come free with our coverage, with their property coverage, it is already working in the background, and CCWD already has both of those along with the full amount of insurance that the JPIA provides. But and they're chomping at the bit. I say JPIA is chomping at the bit to go out, and that's one of Adrian's goals, is to see every single member. And if it wasn't her, which I'm sure she'd be happy to do that if he
that'd be great.
a date. She'd be here in a minute.
Yeah, he's great.
And if you could, Dylan, whoever is there, I'd like to know how our SCADA system is protected, because that was the most vulnerable right now.
well, that might not be public.
Yeah, we're not gonna get into a great.
Yeah, but
detail.
could you just tell us that, yes, we have it covered?
Yes, we can.
The story that cyber criminals can tell, or the former cyber criminals can tell.
But yeah, no, we can report on that
they'll-
without divulging.
They've already tried.
Exactly, and
One
it
of
was
these
a
companies-
VPN or something.
One of these companies that JPI has hired that has us as the customer is constantly trying to get into our system. That's their job.
Yeah.
And if we haven't been contacted, and I know we
Right.
haven't, then our system is pretty good. That's what one of the companies does. That's all that they do.
Yeah.
Is they're just trying to get in somehow or another, just testing.
Yeah, that's it.
And so if you've been contacted, and we just heard this on Monday, if you've been contacted, you better be doing something to your system to harden it.
Yeah.
Okay, I guess that leaves me for last here. I just also wanted to acknowledge that I went to the Aqua Conference, enjoyed it a lot. Like Cindy was saying, it's just kind of makes your head spin a little bit. You have to go from session to session looking for the most information. Always worthwhile. One of the surprising things that happened this time, and it also happened down at the Aqua Conference in Indian Wells, is I was just sitting by myself having dinner, and somebody walked up and tapped me on the shoulder and said, "Do you mind if I join you for dinner?" And it was David Egerton. So, he must live a pretty boring life, but it's always nice to spend some time talking to David. He's a great guy. Okay, that concludes the board reports, I guess. Future agenda items we talked about, proposed, and we have next board meetings are Wednesday, May 29th, Wednesday, June 12th, and Wednesday, June 26th. Now we are going into closed sessions. We have 3 of them listed. We're going to be talking about the negotiations with an employee organization, SEIU. That's the first one. The second one is existing litigation government code section. Write this down, 54956.9. And then the third one is a conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigations. Are there any questions about these items? Public comments? Okay, with that, this portion of the meeting is adjourned, and we'll be coming back to report after the closed session.
Guess.